finally here. Custom structures. Let's see how to create those. Oh, right. We found ourselves in IntelliJ once more, and in this tutorial, we're going to be adding custom structures to Minecraft. Now, this will be done with the help of a GitHub repository, and this tutorial more or less will be split into 3 parts. The first part that you're watching at this very moment, this is going to be part 1, in which we will go through the repository. So we have an example repository, we'll copy over all of the files, implement the 2 structures that are basically given to us as examples, and well, then we'll implement those, fix everything that we need to fix there, change a lot of stuff, and I will go through and explain each of the JSON files, what they do, how they relate to each other, and how you can change them. That's all going to be happening in this tutorial right here. In the next tutorial, we're going to make a completely custom single piece structure using the structures that we're making in this tutorial right here. Very important that you watch this first, then the second one, then the third one. Highly recommend doing it in that order. Because what you will find is that once we have implemented one structure, implementing more is really freaking easy. And then the last tutorial in this, 3 tutorial series, let's say, is going to be jigsaw structures. So a structure can only be 48 by 48 by 48. And if you have anything bigger than that, then you need to use jigsaw blocks, and they might look intimidating. And, people are telling you, oh, it's really hard. It is not difficult to use at all, especially because 118.2 actually gives us a insanely great technique to add structures without any code whatsoever. We only need JSON files, and it's absolutely beautiful. But enough talking, let's doing. So let's go to GitHub right here. I have this, of course, in the description below as well. The structure tutorial mod GitHub repo from TelepathicGrunt. Once again, an absolutely amazing piece of technology right here, because this is just absolutely amazing. And what we'll do is we'll work through this GitHub repository to, add the 2 structures that TelepathicGrunt has basically, wanted to add here. And then what we'll do is we'll then use that to work off of in the next 2 tutorials as well. Of course, all of the code they already done, structured tutorial is also in the description below, GitHub repository and individual gist as well. And you can also take a look at this one. Highly recommend working through with me. It's probably best that way. So what we'll do is we'll just go into the source main folder right here, and we'll first of all look at the classes. So you can put structures into your game with classes or without classes. So this example repository here, this tutorial mod repository, has one example with custom classes and one example without classes, JSON only. But we're going to do both of them just so that you can basically see. So let's open the Java.com, and then the structure tutorial package right here. And you can see we'll need some mixin, we'll need the structures package. We have the st structures and the structure tutorial main. So this would be our tutorial mod class. You see, there's only one mixin, that's great, and then there's also only one structure. So we basically have 4 classes that we need to add. So to do this, I basically, copy the name right here. So I just select the name, and then we're creating a new class in the mixin package. So let's, switch back to IntelliJ and go into our mixin package, make a new Java class, calling it exactly this right here. And then what we can do is this is going to be an interface. And now what we can do once again, just copy over the contents of this right here. There you go. And then once again, switch back, copy over. And this is something we're going to do quite a few times, in this tutorial, because that's pretty much how you basically do this. So we copy over the name right here, and then we'll go to our tutorial mode mixins.json and add this as well. That is very important. Otherwise, of course, it's not going to work. Don't forget this step. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Right, so this is the first class implemented, and we can immediately also close this. The next one is going to be the Sky Structures one in the structures package. So let's just copy this over as well. And once again, go into a world this time. We're going to make a new package called structure. And then we're going to make a new Java class right there called Sky Structures. And then we're just going to paste this in. We're going to have one issue, and that is the main right here. We're going to fix this by changing this to tutorial mod.logger, and then this is not a rundown house. This is a Sky structure at the following position. This is just going to be output in the debug log or in the run log, and then we can take a look at this. Now, what you will find first and foremost is there are a lot of different comments in here, and this is incredibly useful. I highly recommend in your own time going through the comments, reading it, taking a look at what each of these different pieces mean, because that is probably one of the best resources. I mean, it is the best resource for structures. Let's just be honest. The GitHub repository is incredibly useful, and I can just recommend go through this and, basically see if, you can find anything there. So the interesting thing is the reason why we're using for the sky structure here, the code is because of this right here. So you can basically see in this comment, right, what we're basically doing is we're basically taking a look at, okay, where's the top water? And then we're adding our structure 60 blocks above that so that our structure basically hovers in the air 60 blocks above land. That is the general idea why we're using this with code basically. And I mean, that's pretty much all that there's to it. So let's continue with the next class. This is the ST structures class. Now I'm going to rename this to mod structures because that is the, way I basically name my classes. So this is going to be the mod structures. There you go. And this is, of course, written incorrectly, which is great as well. Structures, there you go. And then let's actually just copy this in. So there you go. And then we have to change this name to mod structures again. And then this is the structure accessor, Alt and Enter to import. And this is tutorial mod .mod_id, and there you go. Delete all of the imports that we don't need right here, and then we should be fine. So what is the issue right here? The issue here is that I've once again made a typo. I made the same typo twice, which usually means that there isn't a typo, but it's still a typo. Whatever the case may be, you can see that we're making a new sky structures right here, and then we're calling the register method basically on the, our mixin. That's the general idea, and that is pretty much all that we're doing right here. And then last but not least, we have this main class, right? And we can see we're just calling mod structures.register structure features. So we just want to call this in our tutorial mod class right here at the very bottom. So this is mod structures.register structure features. And that is it for the code. Now, when it comes to the JSON files, that's a whole other issue. So if you thought that the JSON files for, items, models, block states, all of that was crazy, well, strap yourselves in because, I mean, you're probably looking at the timestamp right now and you're like, wait, but how long is this video? This is craziness. Well, listen, this is going to be a thorough one. So strap in and let's see. So we only need things in our data folder. And you can see we're going to start with this one, and then we're going to continue with a structure tutorial because this is actually something I'm not going to use. I'm going to quickly explain what this is, and then we're going to continue. So you can see this is a Minecraft tag, right? In this case called On Ocean Explorer Maps. And the idea is that here you can see a great comment once again. This would add your structure as a locatable structure on the cartographer's villager's ocean map, monument maps, basically. You can add this, you don't have to. We're not going to. It is very simple. I mean, at this point, this is just your mod ID. You would replace this mod ID with your mod ID, and then whatever the name of your, custom structure is, you would just replace this one. It's just a tag. Shouldn't be anything crazy here. At this point, this should be fairly trivial. Okay, so what we can do is then go into the data folder structure tutorial. For us, this would be tutorial mod, actually, and see quite a few, different folders here. We'll actually start going into the structures folder because this one actually contains NBT files. So what are NBT files? Well, we've talked about NBT data a little bit with items, basically, right? We are saving NBT data on item stacks. But what is it, NBT files? What is that? Well, basically, custom structures are saved in NBT files. And these NBT files basically contain the code or, some sort of way of, reading and writing in blocks at certain positions. And this is just where, your custom structures are saved. So what we're going to do is we're going to download all 4 of them, and we're going to import them into our custom, into our project. So what we can do is we can just open them. So I middle mouse button click to open them in a new tab here, and then just download, 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 and download. All right, so once you've downloaded them, you can basically close this and go back to the data structure tutorial folder right here. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to switch to IntelliJ, go into our own data folder, very important, data, tutorial mod, and we're going to create a new directory called structures. And inside of there, we're going to copy over these ones right here. There you go, the NBT files. Make sure that everything here is, of course, spelled correctly, right? Structures with an S at the end, very important here, and then we should be fine. Now we have the NBT files here. Now we actually will need to change a bunch of stuff there in a moment, towards the end of the tutorial actually, but we're going to be fine. For this time, it's going to be okay. And what we can then do is look at the tags one right here. You can see tags world gen biome has structure. So you can see there are 2 JSON files in this particular folder right here, and they basically define in what biomes your custom structure can spawn in. That is literally all that they're doing. Now, the way I'm going to do this is I'm actually going to copy over the full name right here, then create the folder and the JSON file, and then copy over the contents. So this goes into data, tutorial mod or your mod ID, tags, and then we want to create a new directory in your tags folder. This is going to be WorldGen. And then inside of there, we want to create a new directory called biome, singular. And then in there, we want to create a new directory called has_structure. And then right here, here's where we want to create the file. You can see code_structure_sky_fan_biomes.json. And then we can also copy over the contents of which are actually not that crazy. So you can see we're just specifying, you know, the different, well, either biomes directly, or we're specifying certain biome tags. In this case, is mountain, is ocean, is deep ocean, and swamp. You know, fairly straightforward, shouldn't be too crazy here. And then the other one is going to be this one. So this is the JSON only house biomes. So once again, we're just going to create a new file right here with the same name. There you go. And then we're going to switch over and copy the contents of this. And there you go again. So as I've said, these two tags will basically define in what biomes your custom structure can spawn in. Very straightforward, shouldn't be too crazy. And now here comes something that is very interesting. And that is going to be closing this. And now we can go into the WorldGen folder. Now you can see there are 4 folders in here, and I will actually create them immediately. And then we can, well, take a look at what their contents of these are going to be. Now, this is a point where I need you to pay very close attention. Okay, listen. In our data folder, tutorial mod, we're going to now create a new folder called WorldGen. Very important. We're going to create a new folder called WorldGen. Okay, listen, you see this WorldGen folder and you see this WorldGen folder. They are very close to each other. Please be careful. This WorldGen folder is inside of the tags folder. Okay? Please be aware of this. You can see they're basically next to each other, but you see they're a little bit, you know, they're not quite the same height, so to speak. This is because the WorldGen folder we're creating right now is under data, tutorial mod, or your mod ID, while the other one is under tutorial mod tags WorldGen. Okay, please keep that in mind and don't confuse them. And if there's an issue, check this, like triple check this. I mean this because I actually ran into this issue myself, so keep that in mind. So let's create the 4 folders, right, once again, in the data, tutorial mod, WorldGen folder. So right click and then new directory. This is the configured_structure_feature. There you go. And then what we can do is we can drag the same folder into the folder here while holding control, and then we can duplicate it. Processor_list is the next one. And then the next one is going to be the structure_set. And then last but not least, we also have the template_pool. So once again, make sure that all of those are written correctly and make sure that they are situated in the right folder. Very important. So we start with the configured structure feature, of course, right? Let's open this and let's see. Once again, we have 2 JSON files, one for each of our structures. Let's copy over the name once again, and let's create the new file here. So you can see code_structure_sky_fan.json. And let's then copy the contents. We're first of all going to copy both of the JSON files, and then I will explain the contents of these. So we can also get the JSON only house.json, and let's get this one as well. New JSON file, there you go. And then this is also going to be the contents here. Copy it over, there you go, and then they are here. So you can see, first of all, we need to change the mod ID right here. So what we can do is basically just double click it, and then it will highlight it for us. Control R to replace, we'll get this replace menu up, and then tutorial mod is going to be the mod ID. Just replace all of them, and there you go. So you can see tutorial mod sky structures, that's going to be fine. The tutorial mod sky fan is the start pool. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. And then here the biomes, right? You can see tutorial mod has structure, code_structure, and so on and so forth. So this one right here actually refers to this JSON file right here. So this should make sense, shouldn't be too crazy. It just points to this JSON file. Okay, fair enough. So this will be the biome tag to determine what biomes this structure can spawn in. At the bottom here, we also have some spawn overrides, so we can basically define, different monsters or creatures that might be able to spawn, in this structure. That's the general idea. We can also adapt noise, so this is just, if you can see, if true, then the land will be, around the bottom of the structure, meaning that it's based on the Y value. So in this sky fan, we of course don't want it, because otherwise, our dirt would be just, moved all the way up to the bottom of the structure, and that's of course not something that we would want here. Now in the JSON only house, there we actually do want this. Here we're taking the type village. This one I am not 100% sure, about why we take village and whether or not you could change this to whatever you want. I'm not sure. what I am semi-sure about is that I believe that this only works because we have defined this as a class, right, with a type here. And this is why, this basically does what it does. Here we're just taking the village because it just makes it a little bit easier for us. Now here we also wanted to change the actual mod ID, so let's just do this as well. And you can see once again, it just points to the actual JSON file right here. JSON only house biomes, and here we're also overriding some creatures, so a parrot could also spawn in over time in this JSON only house. Right, so those are the configured structure feature JSON files. Let's continue along with the next one. So let's close all of this, the processor list. So the processor list is actually, as you can see, only one JSON file, and we will copy this over. But however, this is actually a JSON file that would be optional in this case, but it's still going to be very, very interesting because you actually have a lot of different things that you could do with this that are actually, the applications are quite interesting. So you can see this is a processor list, right? And what this basically means is that this processor will run, as you can see, for every block that is placed by an NBT file. So for each block that we place, in the NBT file, right, that we save there, this processor will run. And it's going to look for certain rules. You can see these rules will be followed. And what that means is that if a stone brick block, in this case, right, is placed, then it has a 50% chance of replacing it with an infested stone brick. So you can see that is really freaking awesome, really cool. And you can also take a look at this one, for example. So there's also a 5% chance of replacing it with an emerald ore. And when we place cobalt deep slate with an NBT file, basically it has a 10% chance of replacing that with deep slate redstone ore. So this, parts of these processors or processor lists can just make really freaking cool, differentiations and just add a little bit of variety to your custom structure. Highly recommend playing around with them in your own time as well. Taking a look at this one, trying to, get to the depths of this. It shouldn't be too crazy to understand, roughly what it's doing, but this is really cool. And this is going to be used in the Sky fan. So it is optional, but I highly recommend, adding it still. And yeah, that would be fine. Also, the errors for the actual comments here, don't worry about them. That's going to be fine. It's actually not going to be an issue here. The errors or the comments can stay, and the errors actually don't mind because Minecraft parses the JSON in a way that the comments are just ignored. All right, let's continue with the structure_set right here, and you can see once again, of course, a JSON file for each of our different structures. So let's copy the name as we've done so many times now, and then we're going to get the content of this as well. So let's get the content. There you go. And let's then copy this over as well. So there we are. And let's get the other one first, and then we can talk about the contents here. The contents of the structure set are also very interesting, but once again, they are not that crazy. So let's get the contents of the JSON right here, and there you go. So let's take a look at both of those. First of all, let's change the mod ID right here and here as well. Now, what does this point to, right? You might ask, okay, what does this point to? Well, this structure right here, or this, particular thing, the structure right here points to the configured structure feature JSON. And you can see this is actually a list of structures. So in theory, you could, add multiple ones right here. So multiple structures, give them different weights, and then those different structures would spawn at that location. So you can see if 2 or more structures in this list, can spawn in a biome at a certain spot, then a random one is based on the weight. Very interesting, very cool. So you can add this. And then what's incredibly important is the placement right here. And this is really freaking important. So let's actually start at the bottom right here. You can see there's different kinds of placement. In this case, I believe there are actually only 2. So there's random spread and then ring base. So ring base, I don't know if you've seen this before, but the idea is that, so a stronghold can spawn a certain distance away from spawn, and that would basically make a ring, and then it could spawn in another ring and another ring and another ring. So that would be ring based. I usually tend to just say, stick to random spread. It's a little bit easier to understand, and that's going to be fine. Now, the separation and the spacing, really interesting. Spacing, of course, right? Average distance apart in chunks, fair enough, right? 16, and then the minimum distance is 6. So obviously the minimum distance always has to be lower than the average distance, right? So make sure that this is lower right here, and then you're going to be fine. These numbers are definitely test numbers, because if you take those, then your structures will spawn, everywhere. You're going to be able to see like 3 or 4 structures, immediately next to each other. So I highly recommend really ramping this up once you actually do, make a mod and you want to add the structure. For testing purposes, this is of course totally fine. Now the salt here is also very important. Make this unique, okay? This cannot match any other structure's salt. What does that mean? Well, basically, if two structures salts match, then they would just be placed at the same location, which of course is something you definitely don't want. So make this one, different from this one, and if you have other ones, also make those different. Now they can't be too big, right? So you can't go over the integer limit. I believe that's the limit here, integer, a 32-bit integer in this case, but make them unique. That's the most important thing in this case, right? You can see the JSON only house pretty much very similar to this, so nothing too crazy here. So let's actually go into the last folder for this craziness, and that is the template pool. You can see we have a Skyfan JSON and a rundown house. Let's actually copy over the Skyfan JSON first, and let's talk about the other one in just a moment. So let's copy this over. There you go. And then the contents of this as well. Let's get those. There you go. And then let's copy them in. And once again, let's get the other one actually done as well. So this is going to be a new directory called run_down_house. There you go. So a new directory. And then we want the two files, the start pool and the side pool. So I can actually get the side pool. Okay, first, that's fine. The name here is actually quite easy to remember. So this was the side pool, side_pool.json. Copy this in, and then let's get the start pool JSON, and this would be the last JSON to be copied over. Craziness. So this is the start_pool.json. There you go. And then let's add this one as well, the contents of which are very interesting. So let's first of all change once again, the mod IDs. You can see we actually are using here repurposed structures. I believe that TelepathicGrunt just hasn't changed this because, I don't think it needs to be changed in this one, actually. The structure tutorial replace as well. There you go. And then right here, in the side pool, once again, replace this and then replace all of the structure tutorial ones, replace all. And then in the start pool, one last time right here, and then this one as well. So now all of the mod IDs have been replaced, and let's take a look at the Skyfan first and foremost. So you can see this one right here, we're just referring to a different side pool. Now in this case, I don't even think we need this because there is no side pool needed in this Skyfan JSON. So we can pretty much disregard this, and even there, I believe that the name here also doesn't quite work. This would be Skyfan, whatever the case may be. I don't think that this is, you can see, I tend to just put the file path and the file name here. Yeah, exactly. So we're going to be fine. Now the fallback is empty. So this just means that if for whatever reason, right, the template pool can't refer to any element, it fails to generate basically, then we're just going to leave it empty. That's the general idea here. And then here the elements are defined. Once again, highly recommend reading some of those comments as well. And you can see that basically we're defining an element that can be chosen. The weight here is how likely it is to be chosen, and then a location. Now this location right here refers to the NBT file. So you can see the Skyfan refers to this NBT file right here. Very important. And also here we have a processor. In this case, this refers to the randomized stone brick processor, which we have added right here. So keep that in mind as well. So that is the general idea of the NBT files, right, of the JSON file for the template pool. Now the start and side pool are actually a little more complicated because our rundown house, right, our rundown house here is actually a file, or rather a structure with a jigsaw block as well. So it has two different sides to it. We're going to see that in just a moment. So the start pool is the one where we basically start at. Okay, that should be fairly self-explanatory. And this is actually defined in the configured structure feature right here. So right here, you can see this is where it starts. So this is the start pool, rundown house, start pool, JSON. This one right here is defined right here. Okay, that's fair enough. And then, well, what do we do then? Well, here, once again, we're just spawning the rundown house left side. In this case, our processors are empty because here we're not using any processor list, so that's going to be fine. So that's totally okay. And you can see there's also some other things. Once again, take a look at the comments here. Highly recommend that and go through that in your own time as well. I can just really recommend it. Now, when it comes to the side pool, we actually have two different elements defined right here. We have the rundown house right side and the right side golden. Now, this is a 50% chance, basically, because both weights are 1, right? And then you have 1 over the sum of weights. So you're going to have 50% chance of each of them, basically. And this is the side pool, and the JSON file here, this is actually referred to in the jigsaw block. Now, we're going to see this in just a moment because we're actually going to have to change a few things in the, actually in the NBT files of the rundown house, because they still point to the different mod ID, but this is going to be seen as well in the next tutorial, basically, where I'm talking a little bit more in depth about jigsaw blocks. This is also going to be discussed and seen, and then this is hopefully going to be well, straightforward, hopefully. Right, but those are all of the JSON files that we want to add and that we have to add to, well, get our structures into the game. And this is all that we need to do for the time being. Like I said, the sky fan is going to work perfectly. The rundown house will actually have to, well, change a few things. But like I said, no worries, we're going to go through that. And it isn't actually too crazy what we have to change. So let's make a new world and let's see if it works. Now, very important, when you are creating a new world and you've added custom structures, then as you can see, what you're going to be greeted with is this experimental settings are not supported thing. That's totally fine. This is okay. This actually means that you've done everything correctly. If you have another error here that is something like you have to launch in safe mode because data, there's something wrong with your data packs, then you have actually a typo in there somewhere in your JSON files or whatever. So please keep that in mind and take a look at this. If you have this, just click proceed. The world will generate normally, and then basically the structures are going to be in there as well. So that's going to be totally fine. And let's see. Find our structures in the world. All right, so we find ourselves in Minecraft, immediately into powdered snow, I guess. That's a great spawn. And oh, well, there you go. There is the left house, and you can see it is pretty much just one part of the house because, as I've said, it's not quite working. So we also have some, interesting signs right here. First of all, this one, right? So mobs can also be saved in structures, basically, as well as custom loot chests. So you can see, set the block to a chest, and then you can just define the loot table into it. Make sure that when you save the NBT file, don't open the chest, because that will basically, well, mark the chest as, well, this is the loot that it has in it, and then it doesn't work. Then it's not random. So you can't open the chest. Make sure to spawn the chest. Build the structure, spawn the chest, save the structure, and then the chest will be random. Now here, the actual jigsaw block would sit, but, as you can see, it's not there, and the other half of the house is also not there. We're going to deal with this in just a moment, but first, we're actually going to locate a biome, and that's going to be the ocean biome. I just want to take a look at this. We could have also, just directly actually port it to a structure, but I think that we should be able to find the other structure, like the sky structure, fairly quickly. I think, let's just take another look. I don't think, okay, maybe not. So let's just locate the structure. So this is going to be the sky fan. We have to start with our mod ID. So this is this one right here. So this is the code structure sky fan. And I believe that we literally spawn inside of it. No, we spawned too far down. Oh, this is a mountain biome. All right, okay. Yes, they do spawn in mountain biomes. I don't know how that would work because, oh, no, there it is. Oh yeah, of course, it's going to take the height of the, this one, and then it goes up. So there it is, our custom structure. And what you can find is that some of them are infested stone bricks and some of them are normal stone bricks, just like the, the processor list has done, this one as well, and the rest of the structure here working perfectly fine. So this is really cool. So this structure already working great. Now we want to take a look at the actual, our rundown house. Why does it, only spawn half of it? That is very strange. And indeed, it is very strange, but we will be able to find the issue in just a moment. So what we want to do is we want to give ourselves, right? We want to give ourselves the structure block. You can only give that via command. So we want to give that to ourselves and just set it down. And you can see if I right click on this, I can actually put in a certain structure's name. Now this is the name of the NBT file that we want to spawn. So we want to spawn tutorial mod not Kaupenjoe, actually. That's going to be done next tutorial. This is going to be the run _ down _ house _ left _ side. I believe that should be correct, if I am not mistaken. This is indeed correct. Load, and then you can see it's loading in, and you have the general outline of where it would spawn. You hit the load button again, and then it's going to spawn. You can see right here is the jigsaw block. Now we're not going to use that we're going to use it in just a moment. Let's actually spawn the other half of the structure as well. We're just going to set this down and actually go into this one right here. I'm going to press Control A and Control C to select it and then copy it. And then we're going to go in here and we're going to get the right side. So this is going to be right side load once again. And let's just make sure that it doesn't interfere with the other one. It does not. That's good. Just so that it's, not weird. And then we're going to have the right side, and then we're also going to have the other right side. That is this is the right side golden. This is going to be right _ side _ golden. And then let's load this as well. Let's make sure I'm not spawning in, or it's not spawning inside of me. There you go. And then we have all three, different ideas. And now the general idea is that we have jigsaw blocks you can see in both of them. And usually the jigsaw blocks, you can see there's like a little bit of a stripe here at the top. Those are usually matched. So you can see those would usually sit next to each other. And then you know that those jigsaw blocks are, well, placed correctly. And the idea is that let's go to the side jigsaw blocks first. So this is quote unquote the side jigsaw block or the side pool. And you can see this defines a name. So here we just want to change the name of the mod ID to our mod ID, tutorial mod right side. So let's just select this as well. Done. And then we're going to do the same thing right here. This is the same right side. So you can see tutorial mod right side. Now this name, right, for this side jigsaw block, let's say, is defined right here in the target name. So this is very important. So this has to change. And then the jigsaw blocks are linked with each other. And now, this is very important as well, the target pool, as you can see right in here, looking for the run_down_house folder inside of the template pool folder, and it's looking for a side pool JSON. However, we're under the wrong mod ID. So we have to change this mod ID right here, tutorial mod, and then we will be fine. Because this, you know, in theory, the side pool JSON actually has not been defined anywhere else. It's only defined right here. And of course, it doesn't have to be called side pool. You can call it whatever you want. But in this case, we're going to stick with this nomenclature. We're going to be fine. And now we want to save those NBT files again. So what we want to do is we want to go to the structure block and then go to this load right here on the left, right? The load on the left. Click this twice to go into save mode and then save this. You can see tutorial mode rundown house left side is saved. And then the same thing for the other two, going into save mode, save this. And then last but not least, going right here into save mode, save this as well. And then all three houses, you know, all three NBT files have been saved. And we can now go to, well, back to IntelliJ, import them correctly, make a new world, and then see the glory that is the entire house. Right, the first thing I hear you scream, where are the NBT files? Well, let's go all the way up to the run folder right here into the saves. And this was the subscribe and like save, actually. So, you know, keep that in mind as well. No, but seriously, there is a generated folder inside of your saves folder, and that will contain the NBT files right here. So what we can do is we can just select all of them and then go down here and then just copy them in here, overwrite all, and that is already everything done. We don't need to do anything else. Let's just create a new world, and then let's see that our custom house or the, you know, rundown house will now spawn complete. All right, so we find ourselves in Minecraft in a new world, and let's see if we can find, there you go, there's already a complete house already set down, and there it is. So let's just see, you can see both sides are there. And did we get lucky and get a gold side? We didn't. Well, that's fair enough. I mean, it is a 50-50 chance. And just to show you, as you can see, there's another house. So, and then there's another house, and maybe I can find a fourth one, you know, so I can basically demonstrate that the separating, you know, the separation here, definitely not enough. Like there is a fourth one. So you definitely have to, you know, change the separation, as I've said, but it's going to be fine. I mean, this is very much just for testing purposes at the moment. Let's just go in here, and this is also just a normal one. Well, bummer, but that is how it's going to be. But yeah, that is pretty much how easy it is to add some custom structures to Minecraft overall. I mean, it is an involved process, but once you've done it once, I can guarantee you doing it again is very straightforward. Right, but that would be it for this tutorial right here. I hope you found this useful and you learned something new. If you did, I would very much appreciate a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more tutorials just like this one. Many thanks also to my lovely Patreon supporters for supporting the channel, and I will see you all in the next video. So yeah.